Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4 of our NC Squared podcast. My name is Chance.
And I'm Simon.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit about HAARP Research Center and
Climate control.
Yeah, the polar vortex.
But before we get to that, I'd like to thank our supporters. Everybody who's donated on Patreon or even just liked or commented on our posts. It's a huge help. It's an inspiration.
Absolutely.
To us. It's paid for our pizza. We lost a couple patrons, actually, so we're suffering through some Little Caesars pizza today, but we'll probably make it. Got some Mountain Dew. It's going to be a good day. Like you said, we're going to be talking about climate control.
Yeah. I'm not too good for Little Caesars every once in a while.
Little Caesars is all right. Can't be an everyday thing.
No, I guess not.
Especially if they raise the price, they'll lose me.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
They'll lose.
It's a $5 pizza.
Well, let's get to it.
Alrighty then.
Launch us off here.
So we're going to be talking about HAARP, which is basically, it's an acronym for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Auroral. Don't make fun of my pronunciations.
Go ahead.
Basically, it's a research station that started off as one of the universities, the U.S. Air Force. I think there was a couple others that started this whole research station off to test radio waves in our ionosphere. And basically, it's garnered a lot of attention, largely because
it has.
It's a little secretive.
It is a little secretive. It is now.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be, but it is secretive now. Like you said, a lot of conspiracies have come up about this. People believing that the U.S. is controlling the weather, whether it be for good or for bad.
Yep.
What's your initial take on that?
So with the HAARP, I don't know if it's specifically weather. I do believe there's something going on there. Just anytime the government or a specific arm of the government gets involved in research, you got to question a little bit on why.
Yeah.
Mainly because military application, even if you're researching something like what they said they were doing, which is the bouncing of how the radio waves interact with our ionosphere.
Correct.
We've been using radio waves for a really long time. So
that's true. The technology is not new.
Yeah, it just
HAARP isn't new.
Yeah, it just causes me to understand that they're involved and what could they have learned from it that they didn't already kind of know.
And that they haven't released any information on what they've learned from that facility in quite a long time.
That's a big one.
According to them, they're actually not currently in operation, correct?
Yeah, they said something about they were shutting down, I think back in 2014.
Right.
But
that's right. Yeah, in 2014, they said that they were going to be shutting down.
Or was it?
That's not true because
if
you check Google, it actually says they're open today.
Which is also another funny part is that if you Google like anything really and it has a location with a physical address of some sort, they always give you like the ability to review or know about that. Like you should check out the reviews for HAARP. It's just funny. So
it is funny.
Or Area 51 for that
a lot
matter.
of people seem to think it's a restaurant.
Yeah, I know.
Commenting on the pineapple salad.
I think it started off as one guy being funny, but then the part of me that's the conspiracy theorist thinks, what if that was a scientist who was trying to put out to the public some type of coded message and then talked about it like it was a restaurant? Pineapple salad with Jacob or something like that.
Yeah, what was that? There was at least 5 reviews about the pineapple salad and some waiter named Jacob.
Yeah, something like that.
So if someone out there knows something, let us know.
Yeah, if you can decode that message, let us know for sure.
As far as weather control, is this something that you back? Do you think this is happening currently?
I think weather control is happening currently. And I'm not as knowledgeable as you on it, but I don't think HAARP is directly related to weather control. I think it's something else going on there.
Sure.
And that's just because radio waves, ionosphere, I'm sure it could affect things, and you might be a little bit more knowledgeable on it than me.
Maybe.
Thanks. But, like there was that theory that the hurricane that was supposed to hit Hawaii, that HAARP was directly involved with having it disperse before it hit mainland.
Right.
And there's a video of it where you can see the satellite imaging of it and how it just like hits this wall and just instantly disperses.
Yeah.
I think
like vaporized this hurricane basically.
Now that could have been because of changing pressures approaching a landfall.
Sure.
Like
definitely.
Ocean versus land, you have much different pressures in our atmosphere. So
right.
It makes sense there. But it was pretty suspect in my opinion.
Is.
So for such a small island to have such a massively dense, like pressurization to disperse an entire, like, I think it was, what, level 4 hurricane or something?
Yeah, I mean, the island was preparing for this hurricane.
Yeah.
And then it just disappears.
Just collapsed.
Most people would argue that HAARP's main concern is not the good of the world,
Oh, yeah.
but more so the bad of the world. And for me, it's less so about whether or not it's happening, and it's more so a question of whether or not our government is doing it right now.
Yeah.
Because climate control is something that actually kind of upsets a lot of people, and it's, you just say those words and people immediately get upset. Oh, climate control.
That's unnatural.
It's some sort of conspiracy, and I think it comes off that way because that might be the most sci-fi thing we have
Yeah.
in our world. Climate control, controlling clouds, controlling rain. But it's been around for a really long time.
Yeah,
and
you were telling me just a little while ago a little bit about it. So
yeah, and the actual term for it is called geoengineering, which comes off a lot better to most people than climate control or controlling the weather. Because now it says engineering.
yeah, I mean,
People like engineers. They make money.
They make money and they make places for people to live. I
Unless
guess.
you're an audio engineer.
Well, I don't know what.
Then you don't make any money. But yeah, it's called geoengineering, and the actual definition of that is an artificial changing of Earth's climate. This has been around for a long time. It's something that the U.S. actually started taking part in back in the 40s. They started actively testing for it back in the 40s with great success, to many people's dismay. There's been many projects involved. Let me see here. I wrote one of them down.
Well, I know that you were saying that it took back in the 40s. I know there was some like snake oil salesman way back in the day too. That there was this one guy. I think he was from New York or something, and you were saying he released dry ice out to like help crop or help start
And
for crops.
We're gonna get to that. That is gonna come later. But the one that I was talking about is actually Project Curious, is what it was called.
Okay.
This happened back in 1947. What it was General Electric and multiple branches of the military were planning to run some tests on this climate control. Right. Their idea was that they were going to release a bunch of dry ice into the front of the storm.
Yeah.
And by changing the temperatures of various portions of the storm, they could knock it off course, potentially magnify it, etc. They ran multiple tests. Again, that's GE, General Electric.
Yeah.
You see their stamps all over the place
Yeah,
on your refrigerators
they're a pretty big
and
company
stuff.
and stuff.
But back in 47, this is the kind of thing they were dabbling in, because at this point, people were thinking that climate control could be beneficial.
Yeah.
And it could be.
And I can see
I mean,
that.
think about it. If you can control the rain, you can
Stop
control
droughts.
crops.
Yeah, stop droughts or stop flooding.
Absolutely. So I definitely back that. But they did it multiple times, and it was successful, this Project Curious. One time, though, there was a large hurricane that was heading from west to east, and then it was just headed out to sea. So there was going to be no issues there. So this was a prime one to test on. They dropped 180 pounds of dry ice, and the crew recorded pronounced and massive changes to the cloud deck when they did this. And it actually redirected, and unfortunately, in 1947, it fell upon Savannah, Georgia, which is, if you look it up, 1947 hurricane, Savannah, Georgia. It was devastating. It killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Actually. And lawsuits happened.
Jeez.
People love suing people. I'd sue someone.
Yeah,
If they hit me with a hurricane.
I mean, if they were dabbling in something they didn't understand and hit you with a hurricane.
Yeah. So these came up, and people were suing General Electric. I'd sue General Electric too.
Yeah.
It was not looking good for General Electric, because at the time, this was common knowledge that they were running tests on it.
They were pretty public with it.
They were public with it. This is General Electric. They're a public company.
Yeah.
But because of all the lawsuits that were happening, they were so open to lawsuits, because who's going to win that?
Yeah.
Obviously, the people are going to win that.
Hey guys, we did this and it caused people's deaths, and don't blame us, please.
Exactly. So General Electric's lawyers then said that the only thing they could really do was to give the whole program to the government. So they give it to the government, and then the government shrugs off the whole thing, and they say, well, a couple of years ago, I believe it was in 1902. Back in 1902, we saw a hurricane behave similar to how this one did. So it was a natural phenomenon. Sucks you guys got your home wrecked by a hurricane. but we didn't have anything to do with it. 12 years later, they admitted that they did have something to do with it.
They're like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, 12 years later, after all the lawsuits were over in 1965, they came up and they said that they had in fact done what is called cloud seeding, which is the act of putting chemicals into a cloud or dry ice into a cloud in order to change it.
Yeah.
Change its course, redirect it, magnify it, whatever. It was a little too late at that point.
Yeah.
They had already killed people.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But, so yeah, back then, actually, General Electric was the one that was paying for all these tests. Once it was given to the government, everything got secretive after that. It had to be secretive. They were covering up the fact that they had destroyed Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
So
I mean, anytime the government gets involved and they might be blamed for something, I think they just shut the doors and say, we didn't do anything, leave us alone.
That's exactly what they did. And so once General Electric ended up giving it to the government, it started coming out of people's taxes. So General Electric is no longer paying for it. The government's paying for it. And how does the cloud seeding?
Yeah.
Climate control, geoengineering in general. This is like the biggest geoengineering project in the U.S. at the time. And the government pays for things with your money.
Yeah.
With my money. Tax money. And so just given that they were able to direct a whole hurricane off course. Obviously, they weren't very good at the time.
So that's the craziest part to me. And like, you've done a lot of research and you're a lot more knowledgeable than me. So this episode,
I'm pretty passionate about it.
This episode, I'm going to be leaving the research part to you a little bit. And that's just because I think you've got a lot better grasp on it. But the 180 pounds.
180 pounds of dry ice
changes an entire hurricane.
Yes.
Like, that's just, it seems so like such a minuscule amount in comparison to the vastness of a hurricane, even on a small scale. Like,
yeah,
just 180 pounds was enough seeding to completely change course.
Yeah,
and create this destruction.
Absolutely.
Imagine.
I'm no meteorologist.
Yeah.
To clarify,
much, so.
If anyone out there thought I was a meteorologist, I'm not. Chances not either. But basics: hot air rises, cold air falls. Right.
Yeah.
And so changing the temperatures of
that's what I was taught
storms, winds. This is how these hurricanes form.
Yeah.
So,
pressurization of certain areas.
Changing the pressure of an area, which is what a lot of people think HARP is doing with the radio frequencies, is actually changing pressure zones. And changing the temperature, that is what makes up these storms.
Now, do you know right offhand, like, because you're a little bit more into the audio thing, do you know how, like, a radio wave, even the massive intensive radio waves?
You know, I'm not really too familiar. I know a lot of the math behind waveforms and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But radio waves, that's a completely different spectrum.
Yeah.
From what I'm doing. But I understand the idea.
Yeah. I just didn't know if you knew specifically, like, any of the info on that. But I mean, realistically,
I'd make more money if I knew that.
Yeah, I was about to say, realistically, that's like next level stuff that's going to be, you know, people are getting paid a lot of money to figure that kind of stuff out. So
right. But given information like that they were able to do something so massive and so devastating back in the 40s.
Yeah.
We've
come a long way since the 40s.
We've come a long way since then, and a lot of people will deny that geoengineering or climate control, as they like to complain about, is even a thing. And just given that information, and that you can look this up. These are articles you can find online.
Pretty easily.
Documents of this happening, documents of them admitting that they did seed this cloud. Cloud seeding, it is geoengineering and it is climate control.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense.
And again, I'm not like trying to prove or disprove anything, but for everybody that says that it's not a thing right off the bat,
When your governments and companies come forth and say, "Hey, we did do this,"
yeah,
it's hard to say no, you didn't.
it's hard to say no, you didn't. When like people are worried that they're the ones keeping secrets from us,
Yeah.
and they told us straight up front that they did. Cloud seeding is not. It's not just something that we do. It's something it's all over the world.
Yeah.
It's common.
How many countries were we talking about?
24 countries are actually currently pursuing and actively interested in geoengineering.
Yeah, see, that's
24 countries.
That's a pretty large amount.
Some of these are big. One of those is the United States.
And the amount of budget that has to go into that kind of research and development, like,
it's huge.
Probably a massive.
And like I was saying, since it's not General Electric, that's taxpayers' money.
Yep.
And it seems silly that people who pay tax dollars will refuse that sort of thing is even possible based on the idea that it seems really science fiction. And it's like,
Yeah, well,
but we have documents of it happening.
I mean, the cell phones and tablets were science fiction back in the day during Star Trek.
Yeah, no, you got a point. You have a point. But
So, just because it seems out of the realm doesn't mean it can't happen or it's not currently happening. That's the whole point of science, is to push the boundaries and learn new stuff and how to get the conclusion you're looking for. What do we have to do to get there?
Absolutely.
Like, and it seems like we're going in that direction.
Sure. Sure. Fast forward a couple of years.
Okay.
We'll skip a couple things here. But we're going to fast forward a couple of years to something called Operation Popeye. This happened in 1967.
Okay.
Vietnam War.
Yep.
Vietnam War. This was actually the first time people had intended to use geoengineering in a military aspect.
Yeah. I mean,
Hostile.
It's only a step or stone.
Yeah,
like away.
exactly. Basically, what it was is during this war, it was monsoon season.
Mm-hmm.
What they were hoping was that by seeding these storms correctly, they could actually extend monsoon season. If your country's in monsoon season,
Yeah.
you're a little under the weather.
You're a little under the weather. It makes it harder to have troop movements through the jungle and
Absolutely.
different areas
I mean,
like that. So
I am by no means an expert on military. You are you are more into that than I am. But yeah,
anyone who's a military guy knows exactly why you would want to do that. So
right.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
it makes sense. Even like me not being in it, I can understand why being in the middle of monsoon season might hurt your odds. But it worked considerably well, according to them. It actually worked so well that they had to make a treaty. It is an active treaty today.
Wow.
That says that you actually cannot use geoengineering for any military reasons, for any hostile reasons.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was actually in 1978 that it was passed, and it was called the Convention on the Prohibition of Military or Any Other Hostile Use of Environmental Modification Techniques. That was
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, and that's why later they renamed it to the Environmental Modification Convention, and then they shortened that to NMOD. So it's called NMOD, and that's how I'll be referring to it from now on.
That's fair.
This is an active treaty that we have in our world today that prevents everybody from using geoengineering against each other.
Yeah.
Because essentially,
And geoengineering, we're probably not just talking about just clouds and making it rain or a tornado or something. This is stuff that where like probably could use earthquakes and stuff too.
earthquakes, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
controlling the weather, it's mainly the redirection of natural occurrences that people are concerned with. Because, but I mean, like you said, even just making it rain, even if you can just make it rain on the wrong people at the right time, that's a huge advantage to you.
Like we were talking about flooding crops.
Flooding crops.
Suddenly the
exactly.
army you're going
That's
against
part of
can't
it.
be
They were
fed.
saying that by seeding correctly, you can actually plan where rainfall is going to happen. And some other countries are actually doing this with great success today.
Yeah, there was a couple examples for.
And we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But it's that, and as well as being able to redirect hurricanes. Hurricanes kill people.
Yeah.
There are oceanside bases. You can redirect a hurricane to hit oceanside.
Well,
you know?
I mean, think about World War II. If the Japanese were capable of hitting Pearl Harbor with a hurricane instead of
Different
trying
story.
to bomb it, they could have claimed no responsibility for it.
Right.
Still wiped out half of our Navy.
Absolutely. That's very possible.
Huh?
But so you can see why this treaty had to happen. If everyone was slinging hurricanes at each other, it'd be a wild world. But that's the crazy. If they have to have a treaty in place, it's because during that Operation Popeye, they witnessed that it was actually viable. It's something you can use in
it started
warfare.
scaring the right people. They
It
were like,
started scaring the right people. And unfortunately, it was a little too late then. They had already used it.
just a tad bit.
But that's why they're all so concerned about it, and why NMOD is now a thing, which makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a knee-jerk reaction. You do something, you figure out, oh God, this actually worked, and it could be bad,
Right.
especially if in the wrong hands. Let's now make a treaty saying we won't do this anymore.
Exactly. And we have other treaties against things like chemical warfare and that sort of thing. It's what happens. It got to the point where it was a big enough deal and it was so real that a treaty had to be put into place. and that they said it so many times they had to shorten it. And then they said that treaty's name so many times they had to shorten it again.
Someone
got tired of typing that in emails over and over again, or writing it on letters or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Fast forward to the modern times. We'll go mid 2000s.
Okay.
I'll slow myself down a little bit. I was going to go a bit further. You're talking about 24 countries are currently practicing geoengineering.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of geoengineering that happens in China. A lot of it has happened right in front of our very eyes, and it is public knowledge to people in China. It is not public knowledge to us that our country is using geoengineering. It's actually rejected by most people.
Yeah, or covered up.
In China, it's something that they practice, perfected even, and they're using currently. I actually learned that geoengineering was used for the Beijing Olympics to make sure it did not rain during the Beijing Olympics. So they have gotten good enough at it that they can afford to use it on something as small as that. I mean, the Olympics are big, but in the scope of things.
In the scope of the world, like the Olympics is huge, but they were like, we just don't want it to rain.
Right. Around the same time they were doing this, they're trying to direct rain for crops, right? And they were also trying to just make it rain in general. They were going through a drought. They were having a rough time. There's moisture in the air. So the idea is that by putting silver iodide into the atmosphere with this dry ice, what it does is it brings all the water particles together. That way they can condense and then it can fall. They can cause some rain to happen in these times of drought. That's a major tool.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they get even better at it later. But that's where we're going to start. But this is around the same time. This is like 2007 moving onwards that they're doing that. They got a little bit of backlash when they accidentally hit Beijing with a massive snowstorm 2 times that stopped general commerce completely in its tracks. Nobody could drive. I mean, like, they absolutely hammered Beijing with snow.
Oh, geez.
Their version of HARP, which again isn't hidden, it's not tucked away in some corner of Alaska somewhere. It's in Beijing, like right in the center of town, and it's called the Beijing Weather Modification Office. You can just go in, make an appointment, talk to people.
Make an appointment for what?
I don't know, just to talk to them, but at least you can make an appointment.
That's true.
You can.
It's not in the most separated state out of it.
Like you were telling me about people who had attempted to view the inside of the HARP facilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they got quite a bit of pushback on that.
Yeah, there was a couple different people. I know, I think it was the governor of Minnesota or one of those states. I don't remember right offhand, but basically I do remember he wanted to go and take a tour of the facility to just visit it, see what's going on, kind of get, eyeballs on it, act all cool probably. And they denied him. They were like, no, you're not stepping in on our facility. And so he showed up to like say, hey, I'm here with my people and we're going to take a tour. And they said no and turned him away.
Just like that.
Yeah. They were like, and this is a governor, like he wasn't like a congressman or anything, but still like
he's not the only one either.
Yeah.
I know that Alaska itself multiple times
wanted to investigate HARP.
Because it's a facility in Alaska.
Yeah, and they had to like petition for it. Then they had to, I think they ended up making, I don't know if it was a law or somehow they finally got access, but I think it was deemable that they only had access during the time that HARP deemed that it was okay for
and
them.
If you're trying to hide something from somebody and they want to come in and give it a look and you say, all right, come back in 6 months.
Yeah. Like you have to give us 24
Let me sweep
hours.
all this stuff under the rug really quick. And then when you come in, we'll get back to work.
It'd be like a cop showing up like, I'd like to take a look at your house. Well, I need 24 hours.
Yeah, give me 24 hours to flush all my drugs down the toilet.
Something like that.
That's exactly what it feels like to me.
There was a lot of stuff going on with HARP that just, it's what makes people kind of confused. And I think anytime you restrict the amount of information coming out of something that should have been either public in the first place or related to government or military, I think that just raises a lot of questions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, that's
makes
where
sense.
I'm at.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's why anybody would be curious. And if they're so worried about all these conspiracies people are coming up with, they could shoot them all down immediately by bringing people into HARP and just showing them that there's nothing fishy going on.
Yeah, I mean,
but they reject people on multiple occasions showing up at their door with lawyers. They won't even let them into the facility for a couple minutes just to peek around.
Yeah, and your research, I get it. It's research. You don't want to contaminate it, but you're shooting high-powered radio waves into the ionosphere.
Yeah.
What is a person coming into your facility and taking a look around on official business?
What is the average person even going to know from looking at what you have in such a high-tech facility?
Exactly.
And then you have countries like, well, not countries. You have China. China is doing it currently, and they're telling their citizens that they're doing it, and they are trying to use it for benefit. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they just tell their citizens about it. So we know that it's possible.
Yeah.
You would have to imagine the United States is doing something similar. If China's doing it, we're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And
and if they were just telling everybody about it,
I think it would cause a lot less problems.
It would cause a lot less problems, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that whatever they're doing with it, they can't tell people, or they feel like they can't tell people. I mean, rewind a little bit to the Beijing Olympics. I watched it on TV. It was a big deal. It was a big event. Do you remember anything in the media talking about how they were preventing it from raining by controlling the weather?
Not even a little bit.
No, exactly. You can find these articles online about them creating snowstorms, creating rain, that sort of thing. You can find these articles online, but they control what sort of articles pop up in your feed. They're not just going to put them in front of you.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if China's like one of the biggest controllers of information. So
exactly.
How is something that is such a big deal to us,
right,
such not a big deal to China that even its general populace knows it's doing, when they are so controlling of information as it is?
Exactly.
That they've deemed it good for the masses.
That's what I'm saying. And our government will play it off like climate control or geoengineering isn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas it's clearly a thing because other massive forces in the world are doing it and they're telling all the people about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what HARP is. I think that's what causes HARP to garner the suspicion. But even the Alaska state legislature and the European Parliament held hearings about HARP. And it's like global concerns and stuff.
And other countries have tried to step in.
And as far as I was aware, they weren't very forthcoming with information even at that time.
Right.
So it just makes you go, when governments are stepping in saying, we have concerns, we just want to check it out. And then you tell them no.
Yeah, exactly. Other forces of the world have stepped in a couple of times and asked what is the deal with HARP. Mm-hmm. Asked if they could come and give it a look around too. To which they always receive the same answer. It's either a no or that it's shut down. But according to Google, it's open. I think 5 days out of the week.
Yeah, it's Tuesday through Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It's open.
Those are some thrift shop hours.
Yeah, those are some very thrift shop hours.
That's pretty funny.
But speaking a little bit more on HARP, mainly because we're talking mainly just about weather control.
This is mainly about HARP, but all this other information is more so just fueling you to be able to make a decision on how you feel about this subject.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit about backing up the fact that people say, we wouldn't have a facility that controls the weather. And then you say, well, other countries are already doing it.
Right.
So why wouldn't we, who have not admitted to doing it, have a secret facility that controls weather?
Exactly.
If other countries... America is supposed to be like the number one country in development and design of its military, science, technology. It's supposed to be always on that edge of tomorrow kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So the difference is China's public about it and says, hey, we have done this. We are currently doing this and researching it. And then America's like, yeah, we don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as weather control.
I saw something funny. I don't know the validity of it. Let me find it here. The mayor of Moscow uses geoengineering to make sure that it does not rain when he is out doing events.
I can see it.
That is, if it's that easy.
I mean, he's just a mayor.
He's just a mayor. But I mean,
if he's getting that kind of,
they must be accurate with it. They're good at it. And it's probably because they're not hiding it from a billion people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're open with it. They can share their research with people and get feedback on it. And they're even trying to use it for the benefit of their people.
Yeah, and when they make mistakes, like with Beijing, they're like, hey, we made a mistake. Public gets angry, and they're like,
Yeah, they were angry.
Slow your roll. We're still learning.
Yeah, exactly. And like, that's what they should have done when the original hurricane crisis happened.
Take the
For
hit.
Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. Take the hit. Understand that you made a big mistake. Pay the people for the damages you caused. And, do your research. Redo your numbers. Figure it out. Like,
yeah, that sucks. But like, pay up.
Yeah.
They managed to squeeze their way out of the lawsuit.
Yeah. I mean,
And then admit to it later
sure
and still squeeze their way out of the lawsuit.
how many?
Well, they admitted to it later, but they were like, well, that was General Electric. They don't own it anymore.
Yeah.
We own it. We're the government.
God, gee. But imagine, like, just food for thought. How many companies get away with that kind of thing? Like, oops, we made a mistake. Either they sweep it on the rug or they just squeeze their way out by, like, passing it off to the government. And the government says, okay, we'll take your
People like
project.
sweeping things under the rug, and I don't blame them because of people are so lawsuit happy.
Mm-hmm.
People will jump on anything, even if it seems morally wrong or conflicting or it wasn't the business's fault, to try and, make a living for themselves without actually doing any work.
Well, I mean, look at Red Bull. Not the name drop, but it gives you wings.
Yeah.
Class action lawsuit. Millions of dollars because it didn't give people wings.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Come on.
Come on.
Okay, the lady who sued McDonald's because their hot coffee was too hot.
Yeah, I did do some research on that, and
To
be fair, it was too hot according to regulations.
It was too hot.
But
did you see that now a lady is suing Chick-fil-A for the exact same thing?
yeah, you were telling
Now
me.
Chick-fil-A is under lawsuit because a lady spilled the coffee in her lap and it was too hot.
Well, the first lady,
She's like,
first lady that got hurt at McDonald's, she had the coffee between her legs and was driving out and hit another car. And
Really?
Yeah, and her reaction was her legs squeezed together, and then it spilled onto her lap, and she burned herself like really bad. But she actually hit another car. She didn't it didn't pop open or anything, if I remember correctly. This was years and years ago, but yeah, she actually got in a car accident that caused the coffee to actually spill on herself.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I was told a long time ago, or what I saw on the news, or whatever it was at the time. So I'm pretty sure that's the actual facts. But if I'm wrong, please correct. Because I don't have it up and ready.
No, I don't.
Here, but
I try not to read into that stuff because honestly, it makes me kind of mad.
I just remember it being such a big deal when I was younger that I remember it being talked about on several occasions, and that was one of the things.
I just don't know why she was suing for more than just like some burn cream for her legs, but she ends up getting millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah,
that's why people are so lawsuit
They said that
happy.
she had permanent damage to her skin and stuff, and she had to get skin grafts and stuff.
That's what I would say.
It was ridiculously. Yeah.
No, I have heard that it was pretty bad. But
off topic a little bit there, but
we can get ranty.
You get the idea of what we're saying, though. Is a company will try to wiggle its way out of anything.
Definitely. And General
Any way
Electric
it can.
did.
So
It worked.
Yep.
It worked. A lot of people.
I wonder if the weather thing is actually owned by the Chinese government or if it's an actual company to itself.
It's the Chinese government.
Okay.
Yes, it is. According to the information that I have.
See, HARP is supposed to be like a private installation now.
Owned by a college.
Because Air Force.
Isn't it?
Yeah, well, the Air Force pulled out and they finished up their research according to them.
Yeah.
And they had, as they stated to Congress, they had learned what they could from the facility and then were pursuing other ways of ionospheric research. So that was an entertaining statement from the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
They weren't exactly public about what they were pursuing. They just said they were looking into other research options.
Fair. Okay. We're going to fast forward a bit further because this is going to launch me into our next topic that is actually half of what we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah?
2018.
Yeah.
That was recent.
Well, yeah.
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
Mid 2018. Still recent. We're talking within the last year. China launched a program that is going to be controlling the rainfall in an area nearly the size of Alaska in China. Right? Following me?
Yeah, I'm following.
What that means is they're actually installing a bunch of chambers across the Tibetan Plateau that are going to release silver iodide and it will be picked up by the wind, and it will be brought up into the sky. And like we were talking about earlier, it will cause water to condense, conglomerate, fall to the earth.
Essentially rain.
Tens of thousands of these chambers are they installing.
Okay.
They're going to release these, and they're saying that each one will create, when it releases this iodide, it'll create a 3-mile long strip of billowing clouds that a couple miles further downwind will end up dropping. So planning that right, looking at the winds, which we can do.
Yeah.
We have stations for that. They can plan where they want the rain to fall.
Yeah.
They have tens of thousands of these. So using them all together, you can be really, really specific about where this rain is going to fall. And they're not doing this for some odd reason. They're doing this to actually help agriculture.
Okay.
They're trying to do this so that they can, they can help out crops that are vital.
Probably one of the few non-military purposes for weather control.
Right. And a lot of people are arguing that that's just like a front. They're like, oh, it's just, that's a cover up. But it's like, well, at least they're doing something. And at least they're admitting that they're doing it. But this is public info. They release this info to the public. Everybody in China knows about it. It's a big deal. They actually said that their expectancy for it is 10 billion cubic meters of rainfall each year.
Jesus.
Directed. So that's not rain on top of rain they already have, because that's not really a thing. But that means they're going to be able to direct that amount of water. That's their expectancy. That's big.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
That's a lot of water.
My biggest concern with this is, does it take from other places? Like,
right, but a lot of this rain is just falling in the Tibetan Plateau.
And they're basically just directionalizing.
They're taking this and making sure that it condenses and falls on the right plots of land to be beneficial to the right people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
See, and that's where it messes with me a bit, because you're changing. Because if you do this over many years and you constantly change it, we were talking about how weather is different than climate. Climate is what the weather is like over like a 30-year period.
Sure.
And weather is a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. Like that's what's currently happening.
Okay.
Climate is 30 years worth of like what the weather was like to create a specific type of climate. Like you have a jungle or you have a
right. Okay.
If they're taking or if they're directionalizing from one place to the other, that's essentially changing the climate, because if they do it enough or too much, they could completely dry out certain areas.
Yeah, true.
And,
it's a lot of power to be reckoned with.
If you think about it, if they did it on their borders, they could essentially restrict rainfall in countries nearby and cause massive droughts.
They could, and someone was actually talking about that. Part of the problem with all of this geoengineering is that clouds do not obey political lines.
Yeah.
So you can be one country messing with your weather, and then you accidentally cause a typhoon and send it into a neighboring country, and it's like, oh God, we didn't mean to do that, but it's still your fault. That's the problem, is that once you start this, if you're not 100% sure of how it's going to happen, again, it doesn't obey political lines. You can accidentally cause something that's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. You know what I mean?
End of the world stuff, or you could just
you send rain to the wrong people at the wrong time,
or
it becomes a big deal.
Or a hurricane to the wrong people at the wrong time.
Right. And a lot of people are upset about them messing with this sort of thing in general, because you can also cause acid rain by doing this. You can release the iodide into the atmosphere along with other things, and then cause that rain to fall on someone.
See,
we have chemical warfare treaties.
I guess it's a good thing.
So that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. I guess it's a good thing we have some treaties for that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And we have treaties about it here, but our country doesn't even tell us that they're messing with the climate.
Yeah.
So it's
I guarantee you they are.
Yeah, they are.
There's no way
they are. And we'll get into that. Just to add on to their accuracy, it's a big deal having all these chambers, tens of thousands, they say, but they're using satellites as well, satellite imaging, so that they can help, they can see how far the clouds are reaching and that sort of thing. They're going to perfect it over time. They will also be launching iodide into the air via artillery shells to help further direct it, and via airplanes.
What's that?
What?
Chemtrails.
Airplanes releasing iodide into the atmosphere and controlling the weather, choosing where rain falls. The chemtrail conspiracy is a big one, and is tied into this.
Yeah,
It's the exact same thing. If they have already proven that they can do this, and when we were messing with the hurricane that hit Savannah, Georgia, it was via airplane. So we have used airplanes to put stuff into the atmosphere that have controlled the weather already. Yet when people talk about chemtrails, you get looked at like you're some sort of idiot. And it's not that it's impossible, because we've proven that it's entirely possible.
It's entirely possible.
It is possible. We've done it before. Our country has done it.
Other countries
China just announced that they're going to be doing it full time.
Yep. So that's
Come on.
That's something to think about just for a moment. Because conspiracy theorists are always like, oh, they don't do this, or that seems unrealistic. And you just made the full circle to chemtrails.
The full circle. Given all the information I just gave you, it seems impossible that you could say that chemtrail is far-fetched. Because we now know it's possible. We've witnessed it. We have multiple accounts. I guarantee you there's more than I've just read about in the past 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more. But you know it's possible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now the question is it happening?
That brings me back. It's less of a question of whether or not do you believe it, and more so, do you believe that our government is doing it right now?
They have already admitted as such.
They've admitted we've done it in the past. They've admitted that we can do it, but do you believe that they're doing it right now? So, I'm not trying to shoot anybody down, but honestly, that shoots down everybody that says that chemtrails are impossible.
Well, it's not just the people who say they're impossible. They're saying the government wouldn't do it.
The government has done it.
The government has done it.
But do you think they're doing it right now?
Absolutely.
I would.
I wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't not. Like, if I had the ability to control where it rained, when I wanted it to rain, or even not rain for that matter.
Right.
You cannot tell me as a governing factor that thinks it always has the people's best interest at heart. It wouldn't take control of that power.
Right, exactly. And like, that's what bothers me. Because if they were truly using it to make sure that rain was falling on the right people at the right time to be better for, better for everybody. We could grow more food, You'd be able to plan this sort of thing out. If that's all they were doing, they would tell people about it. The government loves taking credit for good stuff.
Yeah.
And they love not taking credit for bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And now
Who doesn't?
It's not just government. I mean, we were talking about companies too doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But
not anymore.
If you have the ability to stop a hurricane before it hits a massive amount of tourism where it brings in massive amounts of tax dollars, like Hawaii, why wouldn't you stop it?
Exactly. And people think that they did, and they won't admit to it. As soon as they admitted that they had stopped a hurricane from hitting Hawaii,
they'd have to admit that
they would have to admit that they were messing with it. And why would they not be messing with it?
Yeah, not only messing with it, but that they have not been public about them messing with this, doing the research, learning how to do it.
Exactly.
Like, that's...
That all this time, NOAA, the organization, as well as...
DARPA, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, DARPA's the other one.
And HARP, that all of these things, they've just been lying about it all this time. And then it raises the question, why would you lie about it all this time if you were only doing good for the people of the country?
It's because the public image.
Right. Which also,
China doesn't
care. For those
care.
who don't know, HARP is below the jet stream.
Yeah.
So that's a good place to have a weather control station.
If you were doing... See, and that's where, like I said, it's my ignorance of the radio waves and stuff is what causes me not to think HARP is specifically weather-related. But I don't know.
Nobody knows. They won't let anybody in to look at it.
People who are smart enough and capable enough, if you can figure out silver iodide,
yes,
can condense water molecules to cause it to get heavier and rain in specific locations.
Right.
What about the people who are smart enough to understand that if you hit a specific frequency at a specific angle, you can cause whatever to happen wherever?
Sure. It's totally possible. It is. I mean, these are smart people. They don't just hire some homeless dude off the street to come in and start shooting radio waves into the atmosphere.
And they're like, well, we're just going to take some measurements on this.
Yeah.
No, it's with intent.
It is with intent. Absolutely. And a lot of people say that actually you can control the direction of the wind by raising or lowering the temperatures and pressure levels in specific areas. Mm-hmm. That's how wind is generated. So they're saying by actually being by the jet stream, they can actually direct the jet stream.
Cause
it creates this whip-like function where you move one part of the jet stream and all the rest of it starts to move in conjunction with it, like whipping a hose.
I've seen a couple of those like simulations for how that works.
You can see the jet stream doing it all the time. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're controlling it, but you can see that that is how the jet stream behaves, and people think that that is probably the point of the strategic location of HARP.
Yeah,
that's why it was there originally.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that that's why it would still be there and still be used today.
Yeah, I think it was built back in 1992, so it's been there for.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's.
So,
I think
I
it's
thought it was older
1990.
than that, but yeah.
Well, the facility itself officially, I think, began 1990.
It kind of came after all of the hype around controlling the climate fell off. Once everybody stopped talking about it, they put up this new facility for radio waves
That the Air Force got involved in.
Right. Who's to say that they're not putting iodide into the skies and controlling the rain?
Yeah.
This is this isn't the kind of thing where you put iodide up and then like 10 miles down the road rain falls. This is the kind of thing that takes planning. This is like you are putting the iodide into the atmosphere days in advance.
Yep.
That sort of thing.
And this isn't a coffee canister worth of
180 pounds, apparently,
well, of the ice.
of the ice. And I believe that's ice with like iodide in it. And that sort of I believe it was just ice the first time. They still use the dry ice to put the iodide into the system.
Okay.
I don't know how that works. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know. Someone tell us. But yeah, so if you're going to be using the wind as a factor to where the rain is going to fall, you're going to have the greatest reach if you're doing so right underneath the jet stream where the air is moving the fastest.
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you can plan how long it's going to be before the rain falls, the jet stream reaches so far. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Endless possibility. A lot of people believe the reason they won't give you any information on HARP or on climate control in the United States.
They can't be blamed if something goes wrong.
That's true. They think that they are most likely in cahoots with in cahoots.
I like it.
I like that. I don't know what that means. People say that. They're in cahoots with large-scale agricultural companies.
Oh.
Like I was telling you earlier, Monsanto. Monsanto's the heart of many, many conspiracies. A lot of people have heard of Roundup, that sort of thing. Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Monsanto.
Yep.
People believe that they are using the weather to their advantage. A lot of people have witnessed this happen before. Heavy rainfall or heavy drought running farmers out of business, and then Monsanto sweeps in, buys them up, and suddenly all the weather turns around for them the next year, and they're growing a ton of corn for everybody.
Massive amounts of crops, and now they're rich.
How do you get someone to sell land for as little as possible? You make it so they have to.
Yep.
You actually destroy their business by ruining all their crops for a year. What are they going to do? Monsanto comes in and offers them a below the belt number. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they have to take it.
Yeah, because they officially are like going bankrupt.
Monsanto provides 85% of the corn in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And it is all GMO.
Yep.
See what I'm saying?
And we were talking about before about how they genetically modify their corn so that they cannot be reseeded.
Yeah, they genetically modify their corn so that if farmers do use their seeds, they will not reproduce seeds later for them to replant.
Which is just a giant money grab.
It is. It is a big money grab.
Yeah. That's basically saying, we'll give you corn that you can use,
but you're going to have to buy it again from us next year.
Because we don't want you to just use it all
They're
your
a monolith of a company.
Yeah.
They really are. I'm sure they have far reaches. They're international. Mm-hmm. We could do a whole episode on Monsanto.
We probably should, to be honest.
We definitely should, and we definitely will. If anybody out there wants to see an episode on Monsanto, let us know and send us any information you have. We'll still do some research, but that'd be good to know. Guess we should probably get back to the subject here. Given everything
this is the subject.
Given everything I've told you, though, climate control, geoengineering, what's your take on that?
Well, countries are already doing it. They're researching it. 24, as you said. It's happening. We just got to be more public about it.
So we have to be more public about it.
I think that's the biggest thing, is if we're public about it, then the public can control what's too far.
Right.
Or what company may benefit from it.
And all it's doing is just creating hostility. Mm-hmm. These other countries or places China is doing it.
Even-
And they're letting everybody. And China wanted to come in and see what we were up to, and we told them no. But we can see that they're doing it.
Yeah.
If you're hiding it from someone, you never hide something that's going to come across good.
Well, you said it's making us more hostile. I mean, think about people who believe in chemtrails versus people who don't believe in it.
Yep.
Like they treat that person like they're idiots or something.
Right.
But as you went through the facts, they're all online, all public facts, all confirmed and acknowledged by governments
Exactly.
saying, yeah, we do this.
This isn't like some Snopes stuff or something.
Yeah, this isn't like
This isn't me
confidential
reading
files that
like
are on-
articles on Cracked or something like that.
This is the China government says, we are doing this. We did this. We're going to do this.
They're moving forward with the idea.
Yeah.
They're using it openly. If you open something to the public, it just allows you to research it further. And we have places like China that are going out and they're using geoengineering to better their own people.
And the worst
Why
part
would
is-
we not be doing that?
Well, and that's the thing is, our government terrified of the public opinion and everything like that. China, it doesn't give a crap about its public opinion. It says, we are doing this. You don't have a control. You deal with it. That's why they're public about it, is because they have like an iron fist over their people.
That's true.
Control of information, and they basically want to become the number one power in the world.
Right. So on that note, chemtrails.
Yeah.
Believe them?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're using them weather control.
I don't know if they're using them. If they did, it's beyond my scope of understanding why.
Sure.
Like, because I'm
sure
they're
we
not public
we
with
could
it.
probably afford more research.
I
on
think
that.
they are using them, I guess is the best way to answer it. I just don't know what they would be using it for.
Right.
Because it's not helping farmers. Like, they're not specifically doing it for farmers.
Well, people think it's helping Monsanto specifically.
That's where I could
So they're
believe it.
saying, and Monsanto's a big chemical distributor, manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
They do many things. It does not seem far-fetched that a company as large as Monsanto might have interest in something that could be so beneficial to them. Weather is a multiplier. Weather can completely destroy your crop. It can make it twice as good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely I do.
If you can rely, if you don't have to rely on the weather, but you know that it's going to be in your favor no matter what, you don't have to worry. Your investments are safe.
Yeah.
You're planting crops that you know are going to succeed.
Yeah, because
They've
you can
genetically
control
modified
how it
them
goes.
to succeed, and
They can
the
control
weather is
it.
in their favor. That just makes so much sense to me.
And that would be a basic business mentality. Destroy your competition, buy them out, use their property.
Sure. The one thing where it loses me, air traffic is getting more and more frequent.
Yeah,
I've heard they expect it to double by like mid-2020s.
I've heard something along those
is
lines.
what they say.
Yeah.
Where is this iodide, or a lot of people say it's aluminum and aluminum
Aluminum. I
and
like it.
barium are what is actually causing a lot of these chemtrails that are actually negative towards people.
Mm-hmm.
Aluminum, they're saying it's in the sky, shouldn't be in the sky. It's classified as a heavy metal. There's no way for it to get into the sky.
Yeah, without
Yet it
basically
is in
human
the sky.
interference. Yeah.
Private companies have done investigations of chemtrails, and they have found traces of these elements in chemtrails. They have found aluminum in them. That could just be
A byproduct of
byproduct
Yeah.
of the fuel. You know, say what you want about that.
fuel has heavy metals in it.
Fuel has heavy metals in it. It does. I'm sure the composition of jet fuel is complex.
Yes.
But my thing is, if they are using chemtrails in a positive or a negative manner, or probably both, if they're doing one, they're probably doing both.
Yeah,
given-
negative to one person, positive
Given what
for
we've
another.
said, where does that get implemented? Do the pilots know? They wouldn't. That's too many people.
How would a pilot be able to fly a plane and say, okay, we're supposed to be dumping this here for what
Well, that's what
reason?
they're saying, is that it's in the fuel all the time. This is an additive to the fuel.
Oh, so they're saying
And they are planning these
through the
courses
process
for
of
airplanes.
flying the plane, it's being dumped.
Yes, yes. And there are many studies online where you can look at contrails from satellite images. They'll compile a bunch of images to show you where the contrails have been, and they'll fall in grid-like patterns over specific regions and that sort of thing. You lay the grid out, and then it spreads out, and it turns into this big blanket of whatever it is. And then downwind, it falls on the Earth.
Interesting.
That's what they're saying. And they're right. If you look at them, they are grids. But again, I don't know where it could be implemented. That's where it's missing for me. I believe that it is possible, but how could you implement it without too many people knowing?
Company says you need this in your fuel because that's what causes the fuel. It's just a chemical thing. If the guy who's mixing or in control of quality control of it, if there was scientists who developed jet fuel, which there
must be.
And then later on, for efficiency purposes, they were able to say this had to change. Now we add this to it. Then the guy who's just monitoring it isn't gonna know. He just knows some scientist somewhere he doesn't know says that this is a better formula than this.
Right.
And then you just add it to, basically it's like our fuel. Like when we start adding in like the e-fuel and stuff like that, like corn into our fuel, stuff like that. Like a scientist somewhere came up with the idea saying you can put ethanol, or what is it? What's the word I'm looking for?
I have no idea.
It's basically our fuel. It used to be like a particular type, and then changed for research to burn cleaner and stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with jet fuel. That's where it would be implemented.
If it's positive in some ways, like say some of them have iodide, they're releasing that to help the fall of rain. Other ones have aluminum that actually supposedly falls down onto the crops and onto the soil and has a negative impact on it. There are people claiming that doing soil tests in specific areas over the last 15 years, there's over 50,000% higher aluminum in the soil or in the plant life than there was 10 to 15 years ago. That means that some airplanes specifically would have to have iodide, and the other planes specifically would have to have aluminum. You couldn't just put all the bad stuff in every single jet flying around.
That's something I think we would have to do some research on.
We would.
When it comes
That's
down,
the part that's missing.
If you're asking, like, how would someone control the weather and the grid pattern thing, I haven't done any research on that. That might just be something simple, and we're looking in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
But it's not hard to charter a plane.
No.
For no other purpose than releasing a chemtrail.
Sure.
And it doesn't have passengers.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a byproduct. It could be people who are paid to do this.
Yeah. There are also people that claim, if you look at cloud formations, there's various like live feed satellite images and stuff like that. And also people that have taken time-lapse images of their own. So the validity of those is questionable at best.
Yeah.
But people claiming that when you can sometimes see a storm front coming, you will then see planes fly over in front of the storm front with contrails. Planes don't always have contrails.
Sure.
It's due to pressure, and I buy that. I believe the air pressure, it could be what causes.
Yeah, it's just,
sometimes I don't think there's some dude in the cabin of the plane pressing a button, releasing the chemicals on everybody.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Some planes don't have contrails. Like you don't leave a contrail leaving the strip. It's
True.
in the air. You know what I mean? It's an air pressure thing. And I'm buying that, but people claim that when storms start to come, you can see planes being redirected and all of their contrails crisscrossing each other in front of the storm, and then they kind of fade into the cloud before it either develops or turns into something less than it was. Something worth looking into.
Yeah.
People out there who are interested in that sort of thing, you can look up some of those studies. There's a lot of good videos on YouTube. There's actually this one that said if we bought a DVD, we could make as many copies as we wanted and distribute them. And so I feel like we need to take some money and buy one of those and just give everybody one of these contrail DVDs.
Yeah.
If you guys want contrail DVDs, let us know. We'll make it happen. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Why not? We could track that down, I'm sure.
Heck yeah, we could.
I'm sure. Why not? I guess we could probably... It's a little short, but we probably could wrap it up there.
58 minutes. 59 minutes.
We'll stretch out our outro here so that we at least hit the hour mark.
At least the hour,
Right.
I guess.
We'll start talking really slow.
Real slow like.
If anybody out there wants to contact us, you can find us. A simple Google search, NC2 Conspiracy Podcast, will bring up most of our sites. You can find us on Facebook.
Absolutely.
You can find us on Twitter for
Absolutely.
now. We'll see. I don't like Twitter.
But we have had so many problems with Twitter.
We're like all over the place now. We're on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We're on Podbean. We are on YouTube.
We're going to be on iTunes pretty soon.
We're going to be on iTunes pretty soon. That's happening. We're on Spotify.
We finally figured out what that was.
We're on Spotify. We are on Google Play Podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty much all over the place, and it's just going to grow from there. Everything's been really good so far.
It's going to grow from there. We're going to get better at our job.
Yeah. Everything's been developing, honestly, better than I thought it would.
I'm so excited about it.
Soon we're going to be on iTunes, and we're going to have a bit of a call to action for everybody. We're going to ask everybody to go over there, either re-listen to our podcast or just give us a rating and a like. Mm-hmm. Whatever they do, subscribe to it, because we're trying to get on that new and noteworthy list for iTunes.
That's important, and it basically just helps other people hear about our channel and listen in. If they like us, they can stick around.
It's the make or break for podcasts. You hit the new and noteworthy list, it just skyrockets you past a lot of the strife that you go through. If anybody wants to, I guess, donate towards the cause and get us away from this Little Caesars pizza that we're forcing ourselves to indulge. If anyone out there likes Little Caesars, this isn't against you. It's against Little Caesars. Mm-hmm. Their pizza's subpar.
It is.
But if Little Caesars is looking to endorse somebody, we'll accept it.
I can accept a subpar pizza when it's $5. This is a $5 pizza.
It is.
But it's going up in price.
When it goes up,
like constantly. Goes to 6, then 7, and 8. Depends on where you get it.
We're getting off subject. If you want to donate to the cause and help us out, help us potentially make more episodes at a higher frequency, maybe longer episodes. We also want to start live streaming our podcast so we can interact with all of our listeners.
That would be the
real
best
time.
Right there.
You can find us on Patreon. We have quite a few patrons right now. I think we're at 10 right now.
Yep.
They're funding us, paying for our RSS hosting fees on Podbean.
Yeah.
As well as our pizza and our beer.
Yep.
And various things that come up.
If you don't want to be a patron member, just stop by our Facebook.
Yeah.
Shoot us some comments. Let us know how you like the show, or if you don't like the show, whatever it may be.
Let us know.
About.
I'd like to know if you don't like the show.
Yeah, exactly. Or things that we can improve on. We're getting the hang of this a little bit better, and we're gonna be trying to get things down a little bit better. We do not want to be scripted. I think that's our biggest thing, is that
we can get a bit rambly because we don't have scripts. We have some notes, but we don't really have this planned out. It's really just us openly discussing things.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I want to keep it non-scripted because eventually we do want to go live podcast.
Exactly.
I don't want to have it scripted. I want it to be just like this. That way, when we move to live, it feels exactly the same.
It feels the same.
And people can integrate with us.
And that's going to be the best part. Being able to talk to other people, either have guests on the program or
guests. Yeah, we're gonna get a third mic set up here, hopefully in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Start getting some guests on. We have some friends and family that are really big into specific conspiracies, and we're holding a lot of our big conspiracies off until we can have guests on.
Yeah, guests, or at least like live comments and stuff. That'd be amazing.
Yep. If you have any suggestions, contact us on any of those sites. Stop by Patreon if you want to donate. We're on GoFundMe right now too.
Yep.
For the time being. We'll see what happens. Yeah, shoot us a message.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening to the episode, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.